The opinions expressed on the following audio program are solely those of the host and the guests. Burner Podcast is an independently produced, not-for-profit show and is not associated with the Burning Man organization or its subsidiaries. The views expressed are not representative of the entire Burning Man community and are presented here for entertainment purposes only. In short, calm the fuck down. It's just a podcast.
Hey, it's episode number B162, and it is 26 days till the man burns as of this particular recording. This year, instead of taking time off around Burning Man, we've decided to double down and get even more podcasts into your ear holes so you can get as giddy as we do during prep and on your travels and even while sitting in Exodus and in desperate for something to do while you wait for the next pulse. And for the first time in this podcast's history, since we started 11 years ago, we're working on an episode for the folks who stayed back in the default. You know, those of you who made smart life decisions and decided not to blow your entire savings on going out to some stupid hot fucking desert and wear dumb bunny ears and find yourself, or whatever other bullshit you keep telling yourself as a justification to rage till sunrise at some tech bro party on a Wednesday night. But anywho... Sorry, I laid on a snark a little too thick there. I am in Las Vegas right now till I go off grid this year. And yesterday we recorded the most amazing conversation with one Mr. Henry Chang. Henry's contribution to art in Black Rock City has been such a statement about and for Burning Man that folks who have no idea who any of the artists are at Burning Man, those who've never even thought about asking, those who are too busy riding 20 miles per hour on their stupid fucking e-bikes to the next millionaire tech bro party to even give a fuck. Shaking fist. Even those assholes know the work of Henry Chang. You just half-assedly attempt to describe, you know, those crazy looking stainless steel art cars that are like all spiky looking and shit, and people's faces will immediately brighten with delight as they recognize the mutant vehicles you're attempting to describe terribly. Black Rock City legend Henry Chang is the featured interview for today's episode. We recorded it at his shop just off the Vegas Strip, which is absolutely the perfect supervillain mad scientist set you could use for a movie. Going into this interview, I felt like it would be really easy to get bogged down with a lot of engineering talk, and such a massive fuck ton has already been written about Henry's artgineering feats. I'd personally like to thank Dan Baker for his amazing piece that he wrote, which served as a lot of background research material, along with many other articles about Henry. So my bias going into this was already was to get deeper into the stuff that's not had enough room to breathe about his life and his work. And holy fuck was I not disappointed. What fascinates me most is Henry's journey with artist consciousness as a whole. I wasn't even familiar with his music until this interview, and after I devoured all of the available tracks on SoundCloud, I was immediately annoyed that there wasn't more to listen to. In today's chat, we'll follow Henry's hero's journey, starting with his ordinary world childhood in Wyoming, the story of his parents' immigration to the United States and how that has colored his journey, his, let's say, refusal of the soul's calling when he attended university. And in his 20s, Henry crosses the threshold with a massive life event, which he's never talked about publicly until this interview. And now it all kind of comes together with his music, his life, his day job, his cultural pressure from his upbringing. It's all folded in together, returning with the wisdom that work and art cannot exist in silos, and that life is all about integration. One big thing to prep for before we begin, most folks don't know that Henry is basically a war historian. It's a major part of his daily fascination and interest. So a big part of our conversation is on the topic of war and history, and I've just been itching to get into this topic and waiting for just the right guest. The topic of what is our responsibility as artists and burners to a world at war. What is Black Rock City's place in regards to what often gets dismissed as, quote, politics? That topic bookends this conversation that you're about to hear. Henry Chang is our guest. Today's episode is entitled A Symphony of Steel. Ooh. I go by Mr. Arash, even though nobody calls me Mr. Welcome to Burner Podcast.
On the first part of the journey, I was looking at all the life. There were plants and birds and rocks and things. There was sand and hills and rain. The first thing I met was a fly with the bugs and the sky with no clouds. The heat was hot and the ground was dry, but the air was full of sound. I've been through the desert on a horse with no name. It felt good to be out of the rain. In the desert, you can't remember your name, 'cause there ain't no one for to give you no name.
Las Vegas, we're at my shop, and my portion of this build, I have 11,000 square feet in this shop, and I've always had pretty decent sized shops just because of the nature of what I do. The sculptures are kind of big.
Yeah.
The machines aren't small. The machines require a lot of power. The machines take up space, and so I'm sure you can say this probably just about any sculptor that goes to Burning Man. Their biggest requirement is space.
Yeah.
And so I've been here for 12 years, and before that I had a shop in Oakland for a couple of years, and before that I was in San Diego.
Mm. Oh, you're in San Diego. That's right. Yeah, because you went to UCSD.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like I can tell the listeners that it's definitely like walking into a mad scientist realm. Like that can't be the first time that's used that cliche.
Yeah, to me it doesn't seem that way. To me, the place is a big mess and I need to clean it. But yeah, people walk in and there's definitely some things that you see that are pretty unusual.
Yeah, there's like a chair. There's like all the different pieces, and then there's like what I almost want to describe as like a supervillain chair, where like there's giant screens in front of you, and then there's like the huge windows, like blasting light in from the outside. And you're like pretty much here like 24/7. You're either working or you're like.
Yeah. I live here, and I found that. Well, in my opinion, I mean, of course, not everybody would agree with this, but I just find commuting to be kind of a waste of time because it's a waste of your life. I mean, and I've done a lot of it. Like when I lived in San Diego, there was a lot of waste of time sitting on the freeway, and
you can't get away with the kind of things you can, like in San Diego. It's more compartmentalized, and like the shops are going to be in one part of the region and living spaces somewhere else, but like Vegas is a weird place.
Yeah. Well, I actually, so I live here. I actually made it so that it was legal. When I first bought this building, there are a bunch of offices in these rooms upstairs, and my parents, they actually had this really beautiful, huge 12,000 square foot house that they didn't use most of the time. Well, they lived between here and this island in China, and so I had this option of staying in this big, beautiful house, but it would, I'd have to commute 25 minutes each way, and I actually preferred just sleeping on the floor of one of the offices and not have to commute because. Again, I felt like that was 50 minutes a day that I was kind of wasting my life. So
do you what is your relationship to time in regards to when you work? Is the flow state hit, or do you have a set schedule for yourself?
Oh, there's no set schedule, and I pretty much my work is actually my hobby. So to me, it's not really work most of the time. I mean, of course, there's some stuff that is work, like paperwork, stuff like that. But when it comes to actually designing and fabricating things, I love doing that. If I could just do that and not do anything else, I'd be perfectly happy. But I actually I spend a lot of time mountain biking, and I actually consider that to be my job because I feel like if you don't exercise as you get older, your quality of life is just going to go to hell.
Yeah, 100%.
So going out and exercising, that's my job, and my work is my hobby. I would do that 24/7 if I could.
So
but my body would go to hell if I did that. So
All right. So you would not do mountain biking for fun. You're doing it because it's
I do find it to be fun, but I like being creative better than mountain biking. Although I do love mountain biking, And the reason that I mountain bike is because it's fun. I think that over the long run, any kind of exercise that you do is way, way more sustainable if you enjoy it.
Right.
And so I love it. But if I could still be in shape and not do it, and just sit, and I could just sit around and design things and stuff, I would do it. But I don't know. I see what happens to people when they become totally sedentary, and I'm not okay with that for myself.
I love that this topic is an introduction because when I was making notes for this conversation, that's what came up quite a bit for me is like exploring the theme of integration and what like the job is versus the art. And
the art's not the job.
Yeah.
For some parts of it are. Any job, of course, has parts of it that you don't enjoy, of course. But I like being creative. I like solving puzzles, And so when you're designing and building things, it's for me anyway. It's a constant series of things that you have to solve.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I get some sort of endorphin reward. I'm sure for doing that. I'm sure there's some sort of addictive thing about it for me.
And getting into your history, like there's been a journey of like integrating, like folding these sides into each other.
Right. I actually think it's all really quite interconnected. Mm-hmm. But I think culturally we tend to like silo things, like artists do art, engineers do engineering.
Yeah.
And generally speaking, at least in our culture, engineers don't do art and artists don't do engineering. But to me, it's all kind of related to each other.
Yeah.
And I think that separation is kind of artificial, and it's something that we're taught. And I haven't thought much about why I don't do that as far as like the separation. But I feel like it's artificial. But
you said you haven't thought about it. You said
about why I don't separate it. Mm-hmm. Well, part of it is because in my education, I started out in engineering and I switched over to computer science. I got pretty far along to where I started to take some upper division classes in engineering, like statics and dynamics and fluid dynamics and stuff like that.
Right.
So I got to where I had a kind of a. I mean, I wouldn't call myself an engineer, but I understand engineering. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm not going to call myself an engineer because I don't have a license. So that it would be false advertising. But I didn't really fully immerse into the engineering academic, that academic ecosystem or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And with art, I don't really have any educational at all.
Yeah.
So I didn't get siloed in either one of those things. You know, so does that make any sense?
Yeah. No, so what I want to do is I want to follow like this thread, and I have kind of like this loose, I feel like this like loose outline of how you arrived at where you're at now. And I want to go back to the beginning. Like your childhood was in Wyoming.
Yes, it was in Wyoming, Laramie, Wyoming. And the way, you know, my parents immigrated from Taiwan a couple years before I was born. And my dad, he went to grad school, and he got a PhD at the University of Wyoming, and they offered him a teaching position after he got his PhD. And so that's how an Asian family ended up in Laramie, Wyoming. It's that kind of isn't really a very normal thing.
Yeah.
And
like, I mean, did you have other people that looked like you around you?
there was one other Japanese family, and that was it. There was, you know, and I don't. Their kids weren't the same age as us because I can't. Yeah. So yeah, me and my brother were the only Asian kids in the high school.
Yeah.
And there was one black family. So it wasn't a very diverse place, but it wasn't 100% redneck because there was the university there, so it was, you know, there was at least a mix of people whose their parents were highly educated, and then people whose families were like ranchers and stuff, you know. So, and then what do you need to know anything else beyond that about my?
I'll ask. Yeah, I'll keep poking around. Don't worry about it. So I want to kind of like get like a quick snapshot of like what it was like for you. Like you, I think I read that you early on understood that you had this inkling as an artist. Like you felt the draw to create.
Oh yeah, like well, my parents were typical Asian tiger mom type things, you know, where you had to do really well at school, and in my 7th grade art class, I really enjoyed that. Like, and I think I was pretty good at it too. You know, they teach you how to draw and all that kind of stuff, and but then after one semester of that, they were like really proud of some of the drawings that I did and stuff, but then they're like, yeah, you're not allowed to take any more art classes.
Okay.
Because
making the other kids insecure?
No, because they didn't want me to try to become an artist, because they want you to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer, you know how the typical Asian thing is. And
same.
And so yeah, so I was steered away from that. But you know, my dad was a professor of civil engineering, so I was able to take in high school like a bunch of mechanical engineering. Not mechanical engineering, mechanical drawing classes. And of course that, you know, like, and actually I owe a lot to that teacher. I owe that guy a lot. I mean, you know, he's dead, so I can't go back and thank him, but he could tell that I had kind of an aptitude for it.
Right.
And he used to give me harder assignments than everybody else. Like, wow. and
that's really cool.
And yeah, and I was just really into like making my drawings look really nice. Like I would make the fonts, and I would just try to make a beautiful drawing. I wouldn't just like complete a mechanical drawing. I would try to make the whole thing really beautiful. You know, and also I did a lot of construction of like models, like you know, Tamiya and Rebel, some of those, you know, back in the day, the hobby shops had these plastic models where you would, you know, you'd buy, I don't know, like 100 pieces, and then, you know, you'd paint them and glue them together and stuff like that, and I really got a charge out of like trying to make those things beautiful, you know, like. I don't know, like I was really into tanks, just like painting the camo on, and trying to make it as realistic looking as possible. And with all the, the soldiers, they're like a couple inches tall, and I would just like try to paint in eyes on them and, every little detail, like the buttons on their pockets and all kinds of stuff, Yeah. And I'd make these dioramas of all these war scenes and stuff. And I really got a big charge out of doing that. Like I got a huge, like if I completed a really well done model, I would get this huge rush. I'm not sure why, but I don't know. I guess, when you complete a project and you're happy with the result, it's satisfying, right?
Oh yeah. I'm
So-
very, very familiar. Yeah.
So
They're that's so interesting. So your parents were like trying to like talk you out of that, and this mechanical engineering teacher that you had like saw it and like doubled down on
it was
it.
mechanical drawing. Mechanical drawing. Yeah.
But it's kind of interesting because like you kind of found a way to have this creative outlet in a way that's almost masked, like so that your parents look at it and go, "Oh, look, it's technical work."
Yeah, because it's engineering,
Yeah.
And
It was like creative capoeira.
and actually, the reason I say I owe him a huge debt is because basically all the design work and stuff that I do now, like with CAD, computer aided design, yet the fundamentals of it all come from that mechanical drawing that he taught me. That's like everything that I do every day.
Wow,
it stems from that.
that's
Like
spectacular.
he did an amazing job. I didn't realize it at the time.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important for some people when they have a talent that they're able to express, that they're able to develop when they're young, that they have good guidance. Because the flip side of that is that I got a C in my metal shop class. Believe it or not, and I was pretty much a straight A student except for a couple things, and the dude wasn't a very good teacher, and I didn't really understand what he was talking about. He wasn't communicating,
Wow.
Yeah, and I got an A in woodshop, but yeah, I just didn't understand how to use any of the machine. I mean, I think most of the kids didn't actually.
Yeah.
Like one of my this one kid that was my friend, like we had to do this project, and he just like, so I didn't know how to use this press brake, and he just ended up, you're supposed to make this little box out of sheet metal, and I didn't know how to use any of this stuff because I couldn't understand what the fuck. I'm not sure why I just didn't connect with that teacher, but this friend just ended up, he just made it for me. It took him like 10 minutes.
That's fascinating.
And really, I should have gotten an F.
Yeah.
Because I didn't even do that work,
The delivery mechanism matters, It's not always the same.
Yeah, so it's important. Like anybody that's a teacher out there, you can be so influential in somebody's life.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say about that. So
couldn't agree with you more. That's massive. We all have those teachers that like give us that breakthrough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you end up at UCSD? How did that come about?
I was just trying to get out of Wyoming.
Okay. Yeah.
So
all right, as far away as possible.
What were my options? Like Cornell and UC San Diego, and I think maybe UC Boulder too. I think I was on the wait list there, but I just they sent me a catalog, and it had like this tree on the cover. There was a tree on the cliff, and then there was ocean behind it, and I was like, okay, I'm going there.
Yeah.
I didn't even look at anything inside the catalog.
Yeah.
So,
which is pretty funny because UCSD, like, I mean, now at least, it's definitely a pretty notoriously difficult school to get into.
Oh yeah, I mean, even back then, like going from Wyoming to, I could get A's in high school. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are like this. It's pretty easy in high school, and then you go to college, and then everybody's smart if you get into a good institution, Right. It's not like you're the smartest one anymore. Everybody's just as smart as you, and and it's or smarter, and that was definitely a shock to the system. It took me a while to adjust, because then all of a sudden you had to, because those UCs they didn't have grade inflation like the Ivy League schools. Like they had to get their bell curve. So like, you'd get. I got hammered in a couple of classes.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to weed people out of certain departments and stuff, and so parts of it were a little bit rough. Eventually, I adapted, of course, but.
How did you end up with poli-sci and computer science?
So I started off in mechanical engineering just because, that's what the family wants. And computer science, it just, that was sort of like high school almost, where that came really easily to me.
Interesting.
Like, it was just, I just had a natural aptitude for it. And mechanical engineering, not as much. And ironically, because in hindsight, I think it's because I hadn't spent much time working with things. Like I built those plastic models and stuff, but like farmers, they people that grew up on farms have a big advantage when it comes to engineering school, because they have to fix shit out in the middle of nowhere, and they have to improvise, and so they kind of know how things behave. Like they already know all about leverage and things like that, because they've experienced it in real life, and so
it's muscle memory.
They've got a lot of practice. Yeah, they got a lot of practical knowledge already. And whereas if you don't have that experience, you don't have the practical knowledge, and learning the theory part, which is what you do in college, it's more difficult it's not perfectly, it's really intuitive if you've worked with this stuff a lot, And so, later on, after I had worked in, after college, when I had done a bunch of art things, I was like, oh yeah, I would have done a lot better or that physics class, or that, the statics class in engineering. That would have been a lot easier if I had done all this shop stuff first.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm really interested in the poli-sci though. Where did that fit in?
So, when I was a kid, my parents used to make me go to bed really early, and they made me get too much sleep, actually, because I'd wake up at 5 a.m. and then turn on the TV and there wouldn't be anything on, and it would just be like, that snow or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I would watch that for half an hour because there was nothing else to do. People were asleep, and
It's like, go to sleep, kid. We don't want to fucking deal with you.
Yeah. So my dad used to tell me these stories. He would tell me stories about. He had all these. He grew up in the middle of two wars, like World War II and then the Chinese Civil War. Mm-hmm. So I think until he was 13 years old, they were in war. They were, occupied. Running away from this or that. They were kind of nomadic, actually.
Yeah.
Like running around trying to avoid the enemies. And so he would, I don't remember that many of the stories, but he would tell me stories. And so later on, I was really interested in warfare. I think that's probably why. And so, starting from 10 years old, I was just I loved reading history, and I'm an information addict. That's another place where I get a lot of brain reward and endorphins, or I don't even know what it is exactly, but
yeah, information is delicious. I agree.
Yeah, I can't really if I'm eating a meal, I don't if somebody's there, yeah, I can talk to them, but if I'm by myself, I need to be reading something while I'm eating. I can't just sit there and eat. I either have to have some sort of informational video, like a documentary going on, or have something be, because I get bored really easily if I'm not able to have a constant influx of information.
I hear you.
And so in college, the way that I ended up with the poli-sci is that I really enjoyed college, and I didn't want to graduate because like the computer science jobs that I had, they kind of sucked actually. I didn't get good, not good jobs in sort of as far as pay, but good jobs in terms of the work, the coding that I was doing,
Right.
like fixing, like one of the companies, they had an Oracle type system where, it just handled everything in the whole company from you name it, so it's this giant software package and, probably, millions of lines of code and all this stuff. And so they would always have these bugs coming in. And I was the motherfucker that had to sit there and fix these bugs, which it's a pretty much of a grunt job. And it's just not a satisfying job because you don't get to start a project and then get the satisfaction of completing it. You're just putting these Band-Aids all over the place on things.
Yeah.
So you have to sit there and try to figure out somebody else's code, figure out where their error is, hope that your fix doesn't introduce some other error.
Drudgery.
Yeah, it was sheer drudgery. But so you'd fix it, but for every bug that you fix, another one comes in. So you never really finish anything.
And it's never ending. There's never a climax.
Yeah. And so
you're just a drone.
So I really loved school. I played all kinds of sports and. But
I guess the thing about poli-sci that stood out to me is that with your story so far, there's been so much family pressure to do the thing that is a good career path.
Yeah.
But it's where does poli-sci fit into that?
That's since I had done so much reading of history and whatnot just as a hobby.
That was your hobby
the study
major?
of poli. I probably should have been a history major instead, but and I took a bunch of poli-sci classes and enjoyed it. And I'm like, I might as well just get a major in this, Yeah. So I and because another one of my goals is that I wanted to try to break the record for the most number of units by an undergrad, and but I didn't get the record. I had 290 something units, 296 units, and the record was 350. Wow. And my advisor was like, if you don't apply for graduation, I'm going to kick you out. You're ruining all my statistics, because they're supposed to get people out in a certain amount of time,
That's really cool.
So, but I just did the poli-sci because I liked it.
Oh my god!
And by that time I had figured out how to write.
Yeah.
At the beginning, I was a pretty terrible writer. Because I hadn't developed it that well in high school, and I don't know. I thought it was fun. Yeah. I thought it was fun to learn about some political thing, and then you had to read the work and then interpret it, and it was as long as the material that you're reading was interesting, it was fun to write a paper about it, and so I know that's the whole thing's a little odd, but. My whole life has kind of been like that. I try to do things that are fun. Yeah. So
let me tell you.
Yeah.
So much of your story is so I feel all of it. I've been through very similar things from different angles. So I'm kind of I keep I'm hearing the story about just even your comfort with being able to admit to yourself that you want to do something because it's fun. I'm 44 and I just finally came around to that in the past 4 years. So what was happening at that time in your head where that thing was there? I feel you probably couldn't say that out loud to your parents.
Oh, hell no.
Yeah. Fun? Get the fuck out of here. We just survived 2 wars to bring you here.
Yeah.
The pressure of being the child of the pressure of being an artist, child of immigrants who have escaped difficulties most people we know here in the United States have no frame of reference for. So there is this sense of, and I want to know what you feel about this. For me, there's always this sense of a little bit of survivor guilt. Every day that I'm having fun and I'm loving what I'm doing, there's a little bit of survivor guilt that I didn't, become the child that my parents wished I would be.
You know what? I don't really feel too guilty about it.
Good.
But
that part
however, I do recognize though that we're all really fortunate to not have to have gone through some of the things that our predecessors did. You know, like I'm talking about anybody that was born in the United States. We're fortunate because just the instability and not having enough food, not having clean water, not having any sanitation. Just let me give you a quick rundown of my dad. So his father was superintendent of schools for Shandong province, and that school, they were on the run the whole time, like from the Japanese and then from the communists, and they, for this school, this is like, I don't know, 14 to 16-year-olds, something like that. I don't know the exact ages, but they had an agreement with the army that the army was not going to come to conscript these kids to go fight, right? And one of the generals ended up breaking that agreement, and so he traveled over to the headquarters of the him and I don't know if it was aides or other students. I think it might have been both, to protest that the army they're breaking their agreement, and that it wasn't really the army that was doing it; it was a general,
Wow.
And so they went to protest, and they locked him up. A couple days later, they had a kangaroo court, and they executed all of them. And so after that, like my dad and his 5 siblings, so my grandma had to figure out a way to like support the family, right? And so I think she taught English at some school in Taiwan, and so they lived in a one-room dwelling with dirt floors. So and
5 kids.
and didn't really have enough food to go around, and
Wow.
so they're all, they went through some hardship, and also they kind of had to get out of Taiwan because of the political situation, because my grandfather had been branded a traitor for for protesting to the army, so they had to do well so that they could go to the good university there and get the hell out of Taiwan.
Wow.
because politically they were kind of like, I don't know, my grandfather was supposed to be a traitor, right? And so
Education was the life raft early on. Yeah.
So when my dad figured out that he had to in order, his ticket to get out of there was he had to get into Taida, which was the best university there. He locked himself in a room and studied for 6 months.
That's incredible.
But with the political situation, it felt like it was kind of a life or death thing, or not really life or death, but a really fucked up life versus a real life thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So that's the type of thing that I'm talking about, where we're all very lucky that we don't have to face stresses like that. Of course, it's not perfect here either. Everybody has problems.
Sure.
Nobody's life is perfect.
Yeah.
But we don't have to deal with some really huge problems. So
No, there's certainly a lot of things. We always have room for improvement. I don't want to insinuate that that's not the case, but there's definitely things that I watch people become very upset about here in the United States, and I'm like, really?
They don't know how good they have it. We all have it so good.
Yeah.
There's people. As far as the overall situation here, people shouldn't get too upset.
Yeah.
I don't think it could be so much worse. You don't have any idea how much worse it could be. Some people that want a revolution. No, you don't.
Yeah.
You do not want that.
I agree.
It's bad for everybody.
Yeah. That exact sentence you just said, you don't know how much worse it can get. I say that pretty regularly.
Yeah.
You really don't. Like, it's... all right, I want to get back on your story track here. No, we're going to come back to this because this is a part of the story. So I know that on the lead up to Burning Man, your first burn was 2005. But before
2004, actually.
2004, okay.
Yeah.
On the lead up to that, I have notes for two things here. Jazz, you get into like your start to play music.
Yeah.
And then you're also designing and building homes.
Yeah. Okay. So the music thing that started. My parents made me play violin for a couple years.
Why? Why is that?
Oh, that's that whole Tiger Mom thing again. You know.
Like why? That's good. That's because what is the point to doing that if it's like not moving career forward, or do they see it as moving career forward?
I'm not sure why, even though they don't see that as a good career, but I don't know. I'm not sure. I need to.
Is it just to impress the Joneses or whatever? Like, here, my kid plays violin?
Maybe a little bit, but I don't really know. But they definitely wanted me to play a musical instrument, you know.
Interesting.
And it's definitely an Asian thing where they want you to learn those skills. I mean, it's kind of ironic because later on they wanted me to stop playing the piano. And it's like, you're the ones that made me start this in the first place. Like,
but we really want you to enjoy it.
so I ended up switching to piano when I was like 10.
Yeah. And
like I sucked at the violin, but I had an aptitude for the piano, and I liked it. You know, I liked it, and then I rebelled when I was like 16 or something like that. But then in college, I heard some stuff that I was like, yeah, that sounds really cool, some solo piano stuff. And so I went out and bought a piano and started, and the songs that I liked, there was some new age piano stuff that you can buy sheet music for it. So I taught myself how to play by ear and started, I started playing a bunch of new age stuff, and then I got into blues and jazz after that.
New age, like, were you into Enigma?
Oh, I love Enigma.
Yeah. Enigma.
The new age stuff that I was playing was just solo piano stuff. But yeah, that one Enigma album, I've listened to that thing.
Same.
That's good, like love making type of music.
Yeah, 100%. A lot of 90s love making happened to Enigma.
Oh, big time. So.
And then, so houses, you were building and designing houses. This was how did you get into that?
So my dad, he was the professor of civil engineering, and he got into developing land and stuff because all his skills kind of naturally worked into that. And later on, here's a twist to the story. When I was 26, I was still in college, actually. Like, just to make a long story short, I got busted for distribution of marijuana. We transported some marijuana from one place to another, and like, so just to make a long story short, I spent like 10 months in federal for that.
I was about to ask, where'd your parents? How did they respond to that?
I was officially black sheep after that for sure, and so that's why I don't know, the art stuff doesn't really faze me at all because doing time in federal, that's way worse.
I see what happened. You had an experience that just ripped that fucking Band-Aid right off.
Right. Actually, I quit trying to get corporate jobs after that. I'm like, man, they're not going to give me a job because I've got this distribution of marijuana felony on my, on my record. And in hindsight, that was probably not true because in Silicon Valley, I don't think they care all that much. Some of the companies would, but like, I don't know. Weed is not really seen as being all that evil.
10 months is no joke.
Yeah. Well, federal is... That's that whole war on drugs thing.
Yeah.
Because they had these mandatory minimums. If it would have been state, I wouldn't have even gotten a felony, actually.
Well, no, what I mean is like it's no joke as far as like a life chapter. Like,
oh,
that's
yeah.
10 months of your life.
Oh, yeah. I mean, in hindsight, actually, other than having a criminal record, it was actually kind of a good experience because, I mean, I wouldn't recommend that anybody do that.
Yeah, don't go to federal prison.
That, oh, yeah, I'm going to have a great experience in prison. Because, no, it's not fun. But it's only good as far as, like, well, I don't know, the more like, if that hadn't have happened, I probably wouldn't even remember what the hell I was doing that 10 months now. Like 35 years later?
Yeah.
You know, I would have a little bit of memory of certain things that happened, but of course the memories of being in federal are quite vivid.
Right. Yeah,
you know,
I would
because it's a little bit of a shocking experience.
I almost want to do I want to set up a plan for us to do a sequel podcast where all we do is go through that chapter.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's freaking crazy.
Yeah, it is. But then after that, I didn't try to get any corporate jobs, you know? Yeah. And so, I think I overthought that, you know? But, God, that would suck, though, to try to go into a job interview. Oh, by the way, I've got a felony.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So.
The thing is, you know, as long as I've had a lot of these conversations with my other like, you know, people of color friends, basically folks that are not like white and grew up in the United States. No, actually it applies to everybody because I've talked to like gay friends about similar things. If we're, if we can still mask it just enough, we'll continue to put up with the tolerable discomfort. So like if you hadn't gone to jail, you may have still been able to keep faking it enough with your family and your parents and like get into another job that's like drudgery and you hate it. But with this, it forced you to rip the Band-Aid off. Like now it's out there. Can't hide it. Like you are officially the black sheep. So it frees you up into making life decisions that you might not have felt the freedom to take if that hadn't happened. And that's the gift that it gave.
That's one of them, sure. Sure. That the whole art thing may not have happened for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I ended up designing, working in the family business a little bit. And actually, before this, I had actually already. This is actually how big of an effect my mechanical drawing teacher in high school had. Like, I saw a demonstration of AutoCAD one time, and I just thought it was the coolest fucking thing ever. That they could have all these different layers and, you know, I just thought, oh my God, that's awesome. So I actually spent like $2,500, or I don't remember. It was a not insignificant amount of money for the time to buy a CAD program just for fun.
Yeah.
just like I didn't even have a purpose for it. But then, you know, once I got out of prison and stuff, I was like, man, I'm not going to go try to get a programming job. So I started doing some drawings for my family with like some apartments and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Which it was okay, but you can't really be very creative with when you're designing apartments, you know, because everything has to pencil out for the bottom line, and it totally limits the scope of what you can do. You can't really. So the designing is inherently creative, but then your boundaries are so narrow, you know. And so I did a few of those, but then I was like, yeah, I want to build a house because then I can be more creative, right? Because with an apartment, you can't. It's the bottom line has to matter, right?
Yeah.
And so I ended up at the time the housing market, the housing market, and therefore raw land was inexpensive. Like if the housing market's not doing well, raw land goes down disproportionately because if you have a house, at least you can rent it. But if you just have a piece of raw land, it's not it's just you're paying taxes and you can't build on it because the housing market sucks, right?
Yeah.
So I got this beautiful lot for pretty cheap, and it was on the edge of a cliff, and it was really long and skinny, and it had this 180-degree view out over Rancho Santa Fe, which is, I think it's the wealthiest zip code in America.
Yeah.
And
Where
it's
Oprah
these
has
rolling
house and
hills.
stuff, yeah.
And it's way better looking at Rancho Santa Fe than being in Rancho Santa Fe looking the other way.
Yeah.
Because all their stuff is just all these estates that are beautifully landscaped, and it's just gorgeous. And so I got that lot, and I had this long, skinny build, on one end, my buildable area on one end of the lot was only 8 feet. So my house was only 8 feet. And so I was able to get pretty creative with designing that thing. And I built it out of concrete and steel. Because since it was on the edge of that cliff, it was in a ravine, and there was wildfire danger.
Yeah.
So I tried to make it it was not that flammable.
And in that region, most things are made out of wood because of the earthquakes.
Most things are made out of wood, not just because of that, because the housing industry makes stuff out of wood. That's that's actually something that I found to be a little bit frustrating, is that all the residential contractors, like your plumbers and electricians and stuff,
Yeah.
they're not used to working with steel studs, and they're all highly resistant to it. They just want to do things that they know.
Right.
They don't like
right.
doing new shit.
Yeah.
And so,
And perhaps they push that myth that it's because of the earthquakes.
you can, a concrete and steel structure can totally withstand earthquakes if they're designed properly. And the way that you traditionally build a wood structure, yes, it will flex and it can handle, that stuff. But with the steel, if you're building it out of concrete and steel, you've just got to have cross brace, and you got to have enough reinforcement so that, it's not going to flex, but you can have it so that it's strong enough so that it won't break.
Right.
So yeah, I really like the way. The other thing that I liked about steel instead of wood is that you don't have to worry about termites, and it also doesn't warp. Like everything stays straight. It doesn't settle.
Right.
I think it's quieter. I think you end up with a much higher quality product after you're done. You can seal it a lot better, so that you don't have because with wood, since it warps, you get all these little gaps all over the place, and it's way easier to get ants running in, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
That's so interesting.
And but after I was done, since it was this long, skinny house, and just normal furniture, I don't know. To me, I needed really modern furniture because it was a modern layout. And they didn't have IKEA back then, thankfully, because I find IKEA to be quite acceptable when it comes to that type of look, but that kind of more modernist look. But at the time in San Diego, there was just nothing. It was just, except for they had a Roche Bobois, which in La Jolla, which had stuff that was just beautiful, fit my aesthetic, and just outrageously expensive. I couldn't afford it.
Yeah. And
so I just started building my own furniture because I wanted to make the interior beautiful,
Amazing.
And I had a pretty good aptitude for it because right from the start, the stuff turned out pretty well. People were like, you should try to market that and all this stuff. And so,
Because it's almost like you have like an AutoCAD inside your brain, and then you're able to kind of see it and envision it, and then lay it out, and then create any form into being. Yeah,
that's where I was talking about. It's all connected. I think that a lot of that comes from your spatial awareness part of your brain. That's the same part of your brain that does music and math.
Right.
And So I think playing music actually has a lot to do with being, at least me personally, being able to visualize things.
Right.
And
that's so interesting. Well,
yeah.
that's perfect transition because I wanted to get in it. So I'm trying to figure out this part of the timeline.
Yeah.
Burning Man 2004, was Soul in the Machine formed before that?
Okay, so I got so I was playing jazz all through the late 80s and 90s. And I didn't like electronic music because I had this roommate that was always trying to get me to go to raves, and I regret not listening to him. But he had this terrible audio system in his bedroom. It was like his clock radio, and he would play that stuff, and it just sounded terrible. And it wasn't until I went to a rave style event in 1999. I really regret not having gone to him in '99, and I was like, and you have the PA, and electronic dance music has that huge low end that you can feel. It's not just something that you hear, but you can feel it if it's produced properly, and it makes people want to dance. You know, like you can feel the rhythm. It's like it's a tactile thing. It's not just an auditory thing, and I was like, okay, now I understand why people like this, and I think it's really cool. But then the first thing at the time I was playing a bunch of jazz, and I was watching the DJ, and you can't really see what the DJ is doing all that much, and my first thought was like, this sounds awesome, but there should be musicians playing it. It would add that extra element of, when you see good musicians, like there's a little bit of a magic that's added to the performance, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, that should be added with this stuff. And so right away, I'm like, I want to start an electronic music band. And I hadn't ever done that with jazz because there's no market for it. Like I had this awesome teacher. I mean, awesome as far as like his skills for playing and stuff. Like he was professor of jazz studies, San Diego State, and he had this really, really good band, and they had trouble getting gigs. So what the fuck am I gonna do? Yeah. Like, I'm many levels below him, and how am I gonna be able to get a gig if his band can? And so I never tried to start a jazz band, but then right away I'm like, I'm gonna start an electronic music band because there's a demand for this music and there's no bands. And so at that time that was when I was building furniture and sculpture and stuff. And so it was just kind of natural. We're going to build our own instruments because the instruments that you can perform electronic music with, I mean, they're basically MIDI controllers. So it's like keyboards and some electronic drums. That's about it. The other ones are, and I don't think the keyboards, even though I'm a piano player, I don't think keyboards are really a great it's not a great performance instrument with modern staging because your plane of performance is parallel to your sight line. So it's kind of hard to see what the keyboardist is doing. Like in the classical world, they had these amphitheaters where the audience would rise up above the stage. So you could totally see with a classical pianist in a Carnegie Hall, everybody can see, what Vladimir Horowitz is doing, and appreciate the virtuosity that he's displaying. But with modern staging, the audience is below, so you can't even see what the fuck they're doing. So even though I'm a piano player, I was like, we got to make and actually I think that's one of the reasons that in rock, it's one of the reasons, not the only reason, the guitar, the plane of performance is perpendicular to your line of sight, so you can totally appreciate when a guitar is just ripping it. You can see what he's doing, and it's all right out there for everybody to see, and so you get that magic of the virtuosity, and so I wanted to make the MIDI triggers, basically, the keyboards, they didn't lend themselves to that. So I'm like, okay, we're going to build our own instruments and make them into MIDI triggers.
Yeah.
And so like the laser harp and the drum roll and everything, you know, I'm trying to make it so that the audience can see what's going on.
Fascinating. Yeah.
So,
there's
and DJs have the same problem. They're playing a performance that's parallel to the line of sight.
right.
You know?
Right.
So,
I've never thought about that. Yeah, you're so right. Because I'm trying to look, but I don't I don't know if as many people get off on seeing those little technicalities as you and I do, but because it does seem like sometimes a dance floor is interested in kind of like almost like just being at the altar, like worshiping at the altar. You know, there's like a bit of a star worship thing, but like you're kind of seeing it as like I'm imagining like a cellist, you know, and people surrounding like watching every movement of that. That's such an interesting new angle on it. So you start to approach the music from that direction.
As far as the performance is concerned, yes, not when we're writing it, but when we're performing it, yeah, we want it to all be out there because. I mean, that's the whole reason we have the band in the first place is that with the DJ, you can't see what they're doing.
Right.
You know, and so
how many people in the band?
I mean, it varies, but usually we have 3 instrumentalists and 2 singers.
Okay.
And the number of singers can kind of vary.
Yeah.
So
how does Burning Man enter the picture?
Our first gig was sometime in 2004, and our second gig was at Burning Man. So in 2004, you know, and
did you go to Burning Man?
Just from what I knew about Burning Man, it seemed like it was the right place to take it.
Yeah.
You know,
so hold on, did somebody else coordinate that? Did you decide, yes, we're going to go to Burning Man and get the crew together to go? Like, how did that play out?
I don't even remember, but it just felt like it was a natural thing.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, I mean, it's definitely a burner type of thing. It's first of all, the Burning Man culture likes, I don't know, people like costumes when you build them yourself, stuff like that, you know. Yeah. I don't know, grassroots art, all that kind of stuff, you know. Burning Man appreciates creativity.
Yeah.
You know.
That's an understatement. Yeah.
Yeah. More than any place else in the world, I would say. Yeah. You know, I mean, artists get valued at Burning Man more than they will anywhere else.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
So, like in San Diego where I was living at the time, artists don't get valued at all. You know, so.
Yeah, I agree. I grew up in San Diego. I agree.
Okay.
Yeah. San Diego's more like, I might want to go to the beach today. I don't know.
Yeah, and there's nothing the matter with that, you know. That's totally subjective.
Yeah.
You know, like
no,
if people value something or they don't, there's nothing the matter with it. You know,
there's a I think like in order to appreciate art, there needs to be some sort of tension. I think the tension is, and that not necessarily mean like a negative, stressful tension. Like there's some sort of a like energies crashing against each other. There is something that wants to be spoken, and in those environments you tend to find a stronger appreciation for art.
Yeah, I haven't really thought about the whole why of it. But there's so much expressiveness at Burning Man though, right? People are that's one of the things about, you know, the first time that I went, that's something that really struck me was at Burning Man, you see people doing what they really want to do. You see them dressing the way that they want to dress. You know, compared to the real world, like everything's very conformist.
Yeah.
Like it's not necessarily the way that you dress in the real world isn't necessarily what you would dress like if you could just do whatever the hell you wanted and not have any kind of negative feedback.
I wouldn't wear clothes at all.
So you know, there's a lot of conformism, and I actually didn't even realize how conformist things were and how conformist I was actually until after going to Burning Man the first time. That was the biggest takeaway for me personally, was like, fuck, I'm conformist. I think that I'm a non-conforming artist, which actually I was, but I could be a lot less conformist. Right. I didn't realize,
yeah,
how much freer things could be,
Do you, I enjoy asking people this, your first burn, because I feel like most of the time people have an answer. Do you remember a moment that stood out to you as like something clicks, like you're looking around at something? I don't know. For me, it was silly. For me, it was like this thing of watching this guy walking on a wire at a camp, and I just burst into tears. And I was like, I think I get it. Like it all came together.
Well, for me, it was probably like after the burn, when we're driving back on the freeway, and I'm looking around at all the cars on the freeway. And you look at how people express themselves personally via their vehicle in the real world, and you might get some pinstriping on your car, or you might have some nice rims, and that's about it, right? And compared to the vehicles that you see at Burning Man, when people really can express themselves however the fuck they want, and there's this huge gap, right? And the way people dress, and so it wasn't until I got back out in the real world that I'm like, dang. And of course, like a lot of other first timers, I didn't talk about anything but Burning Man for like 2 months.
Yeah. So, really? You were able to end it in 2 months? I'm impressed. I always, when I meet somebody where they're like, when people say, like Burning Man comes up in conversation, people often will say, "Oh yeah, no, I've heard of it. I haven't been. It's on my bucket list." And I always respond the same. I'm like, I know you haven't been to Burning Man, because once you go, you don't shut the fuck up about it. Yeah. But like, I read something about how like you had a moment of inspiration via your musical performance at Burning Man about physical art making.
Oh,
like how this like the new ideas started to shift in your head about how you're going to express yourself next round.
Well, okay, so before Burning Man, I was in the art or the furniture and sort of small sculpture world, and I did a bunch of things like custom railings, and I would make these really really fancy like custom floor to ceiling towel racks and stuff that I could definitely make somebody's bathroom look pretty pimped out, and things like that, where I'd work with some interior designers and furniture and all that, but everything was kind of like really really high quality, really high quality finishes and stuff, and they would be small, and all the clients tended to be not in California, even though that's where I live, because in California, the wealthy people tend to have like really big houses, and it would just be really expensive to outfit an entire house with that kind of level of detail. But in New York and Chicago and stuff, you might have a $10 million apartment that's like 1,500 square feet or something like that. I don't know how accurate those numbers are. Yeah. But then, if you have this really expensive condo, you're going to want to do it up a little bit, right? If just buying it without a shell costs you like $5 million or whatever, right? Yeah. So the clients there, so my clientele was like with smaller things, and that's what I was into. I was into high quality, but I didn't have big scale. And then when I went to Burning Man, I'm like, okay, so people like big scale. People like big things. Yeah. And I kind of switched my mind about the whole thing, where like, okay, I think people like quality too. So I think the best art, or not necessarily the best art, but if you really want to have maximum impact, you're going to have big scale and high quality. Yeah. We want to have both, So, and so I I didn't do the cars until later, and so I didn't apply that lesson until 7 or 8 years later.
What were you just for like that time period? Were you still regularly going to Burning Man? And
okay, so after 2005, it was I did a sculpture It was actually an honorarium, and then and we also took the band, and that it was way too much.
The sculpture and the band. Yeah.
Yeah, because we were performing every night, and I had the sculpture, and one my bandmate was just this person that I really don't like very much, and so that whole experience just didn't. It burned me out. It was way too much work, you know, and I mean the whole thing was a mistake because, and I didn't go back to Burning Man until 2011, so I missed like 5 years, and it was a mistake because, well, it wasn't Burning Man. It was just like who I went with and how much responsibility I took on. I made some bad decisions, basically. You know.
Yeah,
so, and then, I mean, I repeated that in 2024.
Repeated the bad decisions.
Yeah, where like just way, way, way too much.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I know better, and you know, I should get kicked in the balls for that. It's really dumb. It's really dumb
Why'd you do it if you knew better?
I don't know, just some opportunities to do some cool shit, you know. But then at the time, I was already responsible for taking 3 art cars, you know, and then that big thing, Alethea, you know, that 50-foot tall mutant vehicle.
Yeah.
So the year before, you know, it was like this 40-foot tall, static sculpture. But then the next year, we made it into a mutant vehicle, you know, and like. It's a long story, but well, that's just way, 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 way too much stuff to do.
Yeah.
Like to be responsible for.
I mean,
I should have cut some stuff out. You know, I should have said, okay, we're not taking this car. We're not taking this car. Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know, or either that or like, okay, we'll take this car, but this person's going to be responsible for it, and I'm not going to have anything to do with it because I don't have the bandwidth, you know. So I, I just took on way, way, way too much, and it's really stupid.
So there was there was a period where you were taking, it sounds like, what, 3-4 art cars and a sculpture and the band?
That in 2024, that's what I did. Yeah.
Good Lord.
It's not very smart.
That was not that long ago, my friend.
Yeah, and so of course I didn't go in 2025 because, I got fried. You know, like I mean, there's a whole long story that I'm not going to go into.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just way, 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 way too much, and so yeah.
I want to know like what best represents your transition into what the world, it's probably like safe to say the world predominantly like knows you for the mutant vehicles, right? Like you've got all of this other stuff, but like those have been like the biggest front page splash, right? What does that feel like to you when you look at it? Because like I'm learning about you and I'm talking to you and I'm seeing like this entire symphony, like this entire thing that's a part of your creative process. And each one of these things is just this one expression, right? But then the world outside, who doesn't live inside your head and your heart, sees the mutant vehicle, and to them, that's the representation of you as an artist. Whereas like, here we're having this conversation. I'm like, that's just like one instrument in the band. If your band is the art expression, right?
Right.
What does that feel like to you? What do you think about that? Am I wrong, by the way? Do you agree with the assessment?
Well, yeah, I agree. I mean, well, the thing is, when I built the first art car, that was 2011.
That's Mr. Fusion?
Well, the precursor to Mr. Fusion was 2011.
Okay.
And I say it's a precursor because I built the bodywork. And And I bought one of those little like Cushman type landscaping carts. It's a metal cart, and a lot of people will use those for their first art car. And I shouldn't say a lot, but it's not uncommon, put it that way. And I built this really nice bodywork, and I bolted it to the side of the Cushman, and I had to cover up the Cushman with like some frame and some fabric because the Cushman's ugly, right? And yeah, to get accepted as a mutant vehicle, you also can't. Yeah, it can't be obvious what the underlying vehicle is, and I thought that would be a pretty good art car, and I hadn't been to Burning Man since 2005, So when I took that car to Burning Man, like the whole art mutant vehicle thing had changed because like it had kind of like gotten a little bit of a turbo boost, and the difference between the level of the mutant vehicles in 2011 and 2005 was pretty huge, actually. And afterwards, I was like, man, I know I can do a lot better.
Yeah.
And because I was that whole Cushman cart thing, that it sucked because you didn't have any. The wheels are small, so the washboard. It's on leaf springs. You can't drive very fast over the washboard because it'll start bouncing up and down uncontrollably.
Yeah.
And also it didn't have any range. I was uninformed about the amount of power that you needed to the amount of power that you needed to have on board, and your normal 6 lead acid batteries, it just doesn't have enough. You're not going to have any range. I couldn't even make it I could drive across the playa, and I wouldn't be able to make it all the way back to my camp.
Yeah.
Without it running out of juice. And so I was pretty embarrassed by the whole lack of functionality of that thing. So afterwards, and I'm looking at the Cushman, and I'm just looking at, the front axle is an I-beam,
Yeah.
And I knew how to, I'm a sculptor. I know how to build structural elements that are aesthetically a lot better than an I-beam, right? So, and still serve the same function. So I was like, screw this, man. And so I sold the cart, kept the bodywork, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to just build the car from scratch and make it all beautiful, like make it all sculptural. I don't want to have this cart that I have to hide.
Yeah.
And so that ended up being Mr. Fusion. And which was a pretty interesting experience because I didn't know jack about cars, like literally almost nothing. But I did know structures. Like I knew how to build, like I understood trusses, I understood how to do CAD, I understood how to weld, I understood how to machine, but I didn't know anything about cars. And so that was definitely a trial by fire. Just and the way that I built Mr. Fusion is that the way that I figured that out is that there was a stock car that was just a rolling chassis, a stock car like a racing car, right? It didn't have a motor or anything. It had nothing in it except for it had this quick change rear axle that I really liked the looks of it. So and buying the whole car would cost me about the same as buying one of those axles. So I'm like, okay. So I bought the whole car and just looked at how it was constructed. I'm like, okay, just so I could learn about, how to double wishbone suspension up front and this quick change rear axle. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to just accomplish the same thing with, build a chassis that is kind of does a similar thing, and to have a double wishbone suspension, et cetera, and try to make it all sculptural.
Yeah.
And so, and luckily that was actually a good plan. Because, that car actually functionally was more practical than some of my subsequent ones because on the subsequent ones I had mechanics and I made the mistake of listening to them about certain things. And like, I don't know, this, like on the second one, there really should be way more, the battery should be way more accessible. There should be, but mechanics are used to working on cars where there is no room.
Right.
There's no room, and they like to just pack everything in there. And yeah, I shouldn't have listened to the mechanics. I guess it's my fault because I'd already done one where things were accessible and easy to work on and whatnot. And I'm a little bit bitter about it. I'm like, fuck, why the hell am I listening to the mechanic? Because he made it worse, actually. So just in terms of practicality.
It's so interesting. Because, I mean, like, you're coming from this, God, there's like a word for this that I can't recall right now, but just like almost coming at it from, it's almost like a superpower of for lack of a better word, ignorance. Like you're not being bogged down by the systems that they were raised in. So you're looking at the problem from this completely new angle. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. In hindsight, I actually have more experience designing cars. They know more about motors and the drivetrain, for sure. Right. Absolutely, infinitely more. But when it comes to designing the car, they've designed and fabricated zero, and I've at least done one. Right. So I shouldn't have listened to them. But the thing is, mechanics, and of course not all of them, the better ones understand what they don't know, or not necessarily better, but just more aware, Yeah. But then the more egotistical ones think that they know all about anything that has to do with a car, which is really, really not true.
Yeah. Like, and that applies to any industry anywhere, right? Like the disruptors that come at it like the way that you are. A lot of times it is kind of like thinking like an artist or tapping into artist consciousness. You come in and you're just like, what if we do it this other way? I'm not saying it might work and it might not, but like, why don't we give it a shot?
Right.
And I got to say, by the way, in regards to mutant vehicles on Playa, I have said this on many episodes, and I will never stop saying it. God bless you for bringing art cars to Burning Man. It's like, I think, and I know I'm biased maybe because I'm not mechanically inclined. It feels like every mutant vehicle on Playa, if you've got out there, you are tinkering with it like all week, one way or another. Yeah. I have a feeling that you're not. They're pretty dialed in, but like that is a common thing.
They can definitely have their problems.
Yeah, that environment.
For sure. Well, certain ones are much more reliable than others, and the one that has all the problems. Again, I listen too much to the mechanic.
Yeah,
because he wanted to have like this motor that actually I shouldn't throw him too much under the bus. I don't know. Actually, I don't care. Yeah. Like he wanted to have a motor that he could brag to all his friends about, so he wanted to like have it kind of high performance, and that's totally the wrong idea for a Burning Man art car. You don't want high performance; you just want reliability.
Right.
High performance does you nothing on the Playa. It can look like it's high performance, but you don't want real high performance.
It's kind of like the amount of megapixels they keep adding to cameras that are so far beyond what the human eye can even see on a phone screen.
How many megapixels are we up to now?
I don't even know. Like, and I'm a professional photographer, and I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. No, I stopped paying it. At some point, I'm like, I'm not shooting on billboards like currently. But even then we're past that. It's pretty nuts. For a while it was just a race to just sell more megapixels.
When it comes to that motor, it's my fault though, because I should have just overruled them.
Yeah.
Because that motor, the high performance motor, has all kinds of problems because it doesn't run at a high enough RPM.
Yeah.
Ever for we're supposed to go 5 miles an hour or whatever, and the high performance motors, they're designed for something else, not going 5 miles an hour, right? And so it's got all kinds of problems maintaining oil pressure and whatnot because of that.
Let me ask you this. So so you start to bring these, and this is like where like the media attention on your work just explodes, right?
Okay.
Like there's more eyes on you. What does your family think of all of this and where you're at?
Oh, they like that.
They like the media. They like the
Yeah.
approval.
Yeah, they like that. So, I mean, I'm not totally
Are you a
black
gray sheep
sheep
now?
anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that definitely helped a lot because yeah,
It's a very
family-
immigrant thing, by the way. Somebody from the outside approved, so now we'll approve.
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I'm not a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, but you know,
But at least you're famous.
but, yeah. So, but at least I'm not a total failure. I'm
Yeah.
only halfay a failure.
Yeah.
That way, you know. So
That's good. That's really good. I had a note here, and we kind of started to talk about this subject, which is interesting because I've always written about this as like the artist versus the art versus the day job. The day job is the parts of what we do that makes money and that is a bit of drudgery, like the administrative things, and then the art is the fun stuff, you know.
Right.
And that changes. Like the art. Like for you, the art, like the engineering is a part of the art, you know, like you're actually like enjoying all of these parts rather than like trying to like plow through them as fast as possible in order to get to the end goal.
yeah, you know. The engineering is totally part of the art, and it's actually fun. You know, like it's fun in the sense of like it's part of the puzzle that you need to solve. You know, but everything that I design, I don't design things that I don't think I'm not going to be able to build.
Yeah.
That's one thing that, like, I like to go. Well, with AI, it's not really that necessary anymore. But I used to go and look at other models and whatnot a lot, other things that people have designed, just to get inspiration for. Oh yeah, that looks really cool and blah 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 blah. Right. But one of the things that I'm struck by with a lot of it is that. Yeah, that you couldn't build that thing for this reason or that reason. You know, that it's really beautiful, but you can't really build it.
Yeah.
And I like making beautiful models, but the best part of it is when you get to bring it to life and make it into 3-dimensional, make it a real object rather than just this thing that lives inside of a computer.
Right.
You know, and so, but that's part of the puzzle, and that's part of the fun of it is having that. Okay, when I design this thing, it's got to be in such a way that you can build it. You know, don't design something that's impossible to build, because then I'm going to miss out on the big fun gratification at the end when you do actually build it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So that constraint is just like built in, and to me, it's part of the challenge and the fun is to try to is to always have that constraint. And I think it's good actually, because if you don't have constraints, like I talk about the constraint of it sucked to design apartments because of the constraints, but that's because it's too much constraint.
Right.
Too little constraint can suck too, though, because then if you have an infinite amount of choices,
Yeah.
you know,
The best
So-
stuff. The best stuff comes out of some kind of constraint, like, because then like our artist brain gets to think around how to fill the gaps in what we're able to get away with, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's got to fulfill some purpose, be somewhat economical, you know, and be practical to be able to fabricate it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, you know, and so.
So where are you going like next? Like now that you learned your lesson about not bringing multiple art cars and being responsible for a sculpture and this and that, like what do you want to do next? What does your next burn look like?
Well, one of my the things that I've always wanted to do was to bring a giant kinetic sculpture to Burning Man, and I've been on this kinetic sculpture thing for a while now. You know what I'm talking to?
Like
The
it moves
things
itself.
all those rotating gears,
Yeah.
And that it's probably, I doubt if it'll be quite as I'm not sure what the writer is, popular or compelling or whatever the word is, as the vehicles, because everybody relates to the vehicles I shouldn't say everybody, but the public in general relates to the vehicles quite in a strongly positive way because, and I think the reason is because it's such a big part of our life. Like cars are such a big part of our life. Like just about every day you either drive or ride in a vehicle, right? And my vehicles aren't really metaphorical in any way. They're just sculptures that you drive, and so there's no veil of abstraction that needs to be pierced to understand what it is. It's like people get it right away, and so it's pretty easy, I think, to get because people generally don't build, custom car makers, they don't build cars from scratch. They tend to modify existing things, like at Burning Man or not,
right.
in both cases. And so when you have something that's kind of obviously built from scratch and it's just it's a sculpture that drives around, like it's easy to get a strong reaction with it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I really like these kinetic sculptures, and I want to. So you're not going to be able to ride around in it, But I've got a theme that I've got a big kinetic sculpture that I want to bring. I'm actually going to start a nonprofit and it's got a specific theme. I mean, can I talk about that?
Absolutely.
Okay. So in reading about history, there's so many stories, because there have been billions of people that have preceded us, right? And I don't know, like if you just take World War II at all, just as an example, that was such a gargantuan conflict that, tens of millions of people died for one thing, and there's just so much that happened. And most of it's quite awful, but some of the stories a few of the stories are quite good, that people went against, they tried to do the right thing.
Courage.
What's that?
Profiles in courage, for sure.
Yeah, and so I want to do, there's one of these people there's a couple of them that are famous, but most of them are pretty much unknown, I'd say, by 99.9% of the general public. And I want to make a piece about mass rescuers, and these are people that were somehow had a position of power within the system and went against the system to try to save a bunch of people.
Wow.
And the most obvious examples are Oscar Schindler.
Sure, yeah.
He had a slave labor camp, and then he risked his life. Like, he's really interesting because if that's all he was, everybody, he's a war criminal because he imprisoned he took advantage of all these Jews for free labor, and blah, 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 blah. But then he risked his life and spent all his money to save them.
Yeah.
And so that's a pretty interesting hero story right there.
Yeah.
Because at up until he started trying to save him, you could say he was a war criminal,
Mm-hmm.
And but then when they started killing the Jews, that was a bridge too far for that guy, And so, and there's other people that in World War II that, there's a Japanese diplomat that saved over 10,000 Jews in either Latvia or Lithuania he went against orders and wrote out well over 10,000 visas that he wasn't supposed to, because when the Nazis were coming, and these Jews needed to get out of there, and so he spent every waking moment of the few days that they had left writing visas that he wasn't supposed to. It ended up costing him his career. Wow. But and then who was another one. There's a Nazi that was in Nanjing that saved over 100,000 Chinese people. And he used his status as a Nazi to create a safe compound where the Japanese weren't allowed to come. They were just going around butchering people, right? And so on that compound, he would go around into the city, and he would wear all his Nazi regalia and all that stuff, right? And he carried a Nazi flag with him to protect himself from the Japanese soldiers, basically. And but he risked his life in a huge way because there was just mass killing going on, and he could have easily, one of the soldiers could have easily just, but luckily for him and all the people that he saved, the soldiers didn't. They respected him because he was a Nazi. That's pretty. His name was John Robb, and I don't think very many people know about him.
No,
and so he got the numbers range between 100,000 to 250,000 people that he saved, and it's definitely an interesting story. After the war, because he was a Nazi. The British wouldn't allow him to. They didn't allow him to get a job. Because he was a Nazi. This is a Nazi that saved. It sounds kind of oxymoronic. Nazis that saved people, right?
Yeah.
But he was a Nazi because he liked socialism. He wasn't a Nazi because he wanted to kill Jews or whatever,
Yeah.
And obviously this guy's not a killer,
right?
Every
movement has a lot of different components. It doesn't come.
Right.
It's not one singular monolith. As much as we like to say that about the people we don't like.
And so just to finish that story, so his family was starving literally because they had no money, but the people in Nanjing heard about it and they started sending him monthly food shipments too.
Wow.
Because they remembered. He saved a lot of people, And so, and there's another one that we just found about recently, relatively speaking. He's actually famous already for being a famous bike racer. What's his name?
Evel Knievel?
He won the Tour de France before and after World War II. His name was Gino Bartoli, and
okay.
He might be the greatest cyclist in history, except for the war interrupted his career, of course.
Wow.
And
that was an inconvenience.
Because he won before and after, so there's 6 years maybe that he didn't have an opportunity to race, which is obviously in his prime since he won before and after. But he was one of the most famous athletes in Europe, and so when in Italy. He was allowed to train. He could ride wherever he wanted. So he smuggled fake papers for Jews inside the frame of his bike.
Wow.
And the police never searched him. But so it might seem that it's safe, but if his network ever got rolled up, then they'd have shot him, So it wasn't safe at all, really. And so that's what he did during the war. He pretending like he was training. He was training, but he was all simultaneously smuggling papers. And, and so he could go all over the place in northern Italy wherever he wanted.
Wow.
And deliver papers, And so, but he never
it'd
told.
Be a great movie. Yeah.
Well, it's mostly not that well known. Well, he never told anybody. He told his son not to tell anybody because he said it was between him and God and not him and the general public.
Wow, that's
which
beautiful.
I found to be quite admirable, actually.
Absolutely. So your kinetic sculpture that you're envisioning is channeling these stories.
Yeah. So I'm gonna have some, I'm going to tell these stories in some plates at the bottom, and all these people's, their names are going to be in the gears that are rotating up there. And the purpose of it is just to memorialize them and just to hopefully people realize that if they're ever in that type of situation, that they have a choice. You don't have to just go along with it. Most of the people will be like, yeah, I was just following orders.
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily have to totally follow all the orders. You know, if you see that they're clearly immoral, these people all made a difference. They saved a lot of people. You know,
it's interesting because the examples that inspire you, I'm almost hearing them as like rebel like an artist, like come up with creative ways to throw a wrench in the works of the system rather than just like standing out. Like, I mean, yes, it's standing in front of a tank is an act of courage, but you're going to get run over. Whereas like, you know, you come up with this creative ways of throwing wrenches in the system, that's the stuff that can really make some change.
These people are all part of the system. Mm-hmm. They kind of remain part of the system and kind of like subverted the system from within, you know. And
they're thinking like what I love these stories. Like these are stories of like longer vision, right? Right. Where you see so much of this playing out in the public here currently and social media and stuff. Like it's like this, there's grandstanding and then there's the immediate satisfaction of winning a public argument and looking like you've taken a stand, which I appreciate. For a lot of people, they're looking at like, no, we're just going to go fucking stand in front of a tank so it can't keep going. But what's the real outcome? Is your real outcome, I want to save as many lives as possible? Then part of that might involve, you know, playing along and not getting that satisfaction from the public ever. Like the bicyclist you were just saying, you know, like didn't get a movie, you know, and didn't get the social media approval of sharing stories, you know, or whatever. But
that's not why he did it.
Yeah, and made a bigger impact as a direct result.
Yeah, you know, all these people were all part of the system.
Yeah,
and you know, but they saw something that was clearly wrong, and they used their power within the system to do something.
Wow.
You know, and they didn't try to change the system. You know, and the thing is, these people actually did a lot more than a lot of other people who weren't in the system and admirably resisted, but they didn't have the power to accomplish as much because they're not part of the system.
Right.
You know, because like if you're outside of the system and like let's say you're trying to save some Jews, there's a limited amount that you can accomplish.
Wow.
Right? Compared to like John Robb, who saved, you know, over 100,000 people, like over Nanking. Mm-hmm. You know, if you're outside of the system, there's no way that you can do that. You know,
I mean, it still takes quite a bit of creativity because, like, I know plenty of people inside systems who are getting bulldozed by the tank.
Right.
A very dear friend of mine joined a police department. He's master's degree and highly educated and conscientious, and the system has like chewed him up and spit him out. He thought he was going to change it from the inside. You know, yeah, it's a fascinating story, and we could again. This could be part 3 of our podcast. But I'm really happy you brought up this topic, and I'm like overjoyed as the interviewer that this is where we're getting into our final chapter of the conversation. Yeah. Because no joke, the final notes I had here, and the reason I brought up the poli-sci stuff earlier was that I wanted to know your thoughts and opinions about Burning Man and politics. You know, there was like this huge. There was like an outcry when, you know, Otto von Danger brought like Burn Wall Street, right? Like, it's not supposed to be political, but like to say, and then there's of course the argument, which I personally agree with, but I want your opinions on, that saying I am apolitical is a very privileged place to be because you've not seen the tanks. You've not experienced, you know, close enough like what it looks like. I appreciate choosing to go in that direction if there's some sort of a creative or spiritual path that you're following, but simply disconnecting from the default world and what's going on here and going, I'm not here for politics. I just want to make something that looks pretty. It's kind of a privileged place to be. My opinion. I'm dying to know yours, but it sounds like obviously since you're planning a political piece, that's or argue something some people argue would be
right. Yeah. So I don't want to do something political that's going to be polarizing at all.
Right.
Yeah, I will say this is political in a sense that, of course, the mass rescuer thing, it is political.
Your intention,
but
is not
it's
to
also
polarize.
it's also political in a way that how can you argue with what those people did?
Right.
Like,
Right.
so in this, I would say it's political, but it's not. I don't think it's very polarizing.
Yeah.
Because I think almost everyone can agree that they did the right thing, right? Like,
Yeah, I think
and-
a lot of times what I think when people say political, what they're doing is they're trying to lump a lot of what's making them uncomfortable together into a single word that they can dismiss. Right?
yeah,
I think like maybe like the question is maybe a part of what people were trying to reach for, I think, when they're frustrated with that kind of stuff on Playa, is I think they're questioning, this is supposed to be a liminal space where interesting abstractions and form and experimentation is happening with creativity. And then you've got some pieces that come that like the claw in the, like those little things where you put in a quarter and you get a toy out of the machine. It's got a little claw that comes down. It's almost like it pulls you out of the playa, and now you are connecting to the default world in a manner that almost makes you uncomfortable. And I can see how somebody having that experience would look at that and label it political, right? Like who was like the Ukrainian artist that brought I'm Fine? Absolutely. God, that piece was like, I mean, my mind was blown. My mind was absolutely blown. But like, I did talk to people who were like, this is uncomfortable. Like, because like every time the sirens would go off in Kiev, it would go off in real time on the.
I thought that was the best piece that year. Yeah. So, and it's not because of the quality of it or anything like that, because
it was powerful,
but because of the connection to the real world, really, of something that was very intense and also really relevant. And I mean, I think that's. I like that one because, it's just seeking to bring awareness is all. I don't think that art is necessarily that great if you're trying to change people's mind with a piece of art.
Yeah,
I think that's just not effective, because you need, usually if you're going to change somebody's mind, you need to be able to express complex ideas, and art's generally not the greatest way to do that. But to bring awareness to certain things, that's different, And so like with my piece, I'm not trying to change anybody's mind about anything. I just want people to know, hey, these people had a choice. If you're if anybody's ever in that position that sees this, you too have a choice, God,
so. That's incredible. Thank you. That is like, I think that's the clarity I was searching for. It's because usually people have a hard time articulating, they're trying to figure out, what is it about this that feels good? What is it about this that doesn't feel good? If it's trying to change mind, arguably it feels manipulative. Whereas if the artistic expression is connecting you to a certain emotional story about another human being or another culture of human beings that you may not feel an immediate easy connection with, then you're creating something powerful, and then you can come up with your own conclusions about where I want to go and out of that.
Right. I'm not going to say that everybody should, if somebody's in a position of being mass rescuer, that's the only right path, because all these mass rescuers, they paid a price too.
Yeah. So,
well, first of all, there's a lot of people that died that won't be on the sculpture because they didn't succeed, So that's one potential cost. Like, that's the most common story, actually. I would say out of the genociding that was going on in World War II, is that way more people failed and get paid with their life than actually succeeded. So and all these people, like I was telling you, like John Robb, well, I guess Chiune Sugihara, he was the Japanese diplomat. Yeah, he lost his career because he wasn't following orders,
right.
And he was extremely talented at being a diplomat because he knew multiple languages and he could speak multiple languages more fluently than anybody else in Japan, actually. And so he just had a talent, and apparently he was extremely charming and just like this generally exceptional human being. And he was made to be a diplomat, you know. And but you know, he paid for it. I forget what he ended up doing, but he had like some menial job for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's not going to be. I'm not saying that my piece is just going to be to bring awareness that you have a choice, and that's it. It's not going to be saying you absolutely should do this, because for a lot of people, one, they might not have the skill to pull it off.
Yeah.
So maybe they shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
You know, like they're just going to get themselves killed. You know, you know. So I'm not going to. There is no right answer to that. It's just that you have a choice. You know, that's all it's going to be.
Yeah.
So,
Henry, this has been an amazing conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, such a great time, and I learned a ton, and I am quite grateful for you giving your time and all the gifts you've given the community. And
just let me say that.
Yeah.
Thank you to the community for being there, and thank you for being something that I can be a part of, actually, because there's no other community that I really feel quite the same way about as Burning Man. You know?
Yeah.
So where I really want to be a part of it, you know. So
same. I hear you. That's why we do it. That's why we keep doing these things.
Yeah.
Henry, thank you so much. No joke. I'm seriously. I want to sit down with you like one or two more times. I do want to get at some point. Let's get together, and I want to hear your prison story. But yeah, you are a wealth of interesting information, and I really hope. I'm so fascinated by this entire like symphony of creativity and experience that you're having, and so much of your story is about integration, which I personally just really appreciate right now. Even right now, this conversation we're having about world events and the playa, your view is more like about integration rather than division. Like, no, I'm not escaping to Burning Man. It's making reality more real. It's a part of this entire full catastrophe of reality that we live in. And it's all expression, and it's all art, and it's all war, and it's all beautiful, and it's all hell. And it's really fucking cool to have this exact experience having this conversation with you.
All right. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be able to express some of this stuff.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It's
cheers.
an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that music that you are hearing in the background is from Soul in the Machine, Henry's live electronic music band, which you learned about in today's episode. Hey, if you loved today's episode, share it with 3 friends. If you hated it, share it with 3 enemies. Burner Podcast is celebrating its 11th year and is listed among the top 5% of podcasts in the world, according to Listen Notes. And any following that we have has come entirely from word of mouth, thanks to you, our dear listeners. Please do leave us a review on your podcast platform of choice. And my personal request for you is to make it as snarky or filled with entendres as possible. Seriously, I really want to fuck with the normies. Burner Podcast is a show for burners, not for people who just watch Burning Man videos on YouTube. So let's really fuck with that algorithm. Episodes of Burner Podcast are produced by a revolving cadre of dusty maniacs. The newest additions to our team are Burner Podcast music editor Chris Huber, aka MIA, and our new media editor, Cable King, among others. Today's episode would not have happened without contributing producer Gordon Katz. Follow us for wildly irregular updates at Burner Podcast, that's all one word, on Instagram and Facebook. All of these links are over at burnerpodcast.com. Our theme music is produced by Austin-based DJ producer and viral social media personality Joman. Find him at jomanmusic.com. Until next time, love, light, and all that other crap. Take us back to the playa. Soul in the Machine.
Been on the run, camouflage, but I'm taking it off for you. I'm putting myself in the lion den, 'cause I love the hot pursuit. Oh, don't keep me waiting, don't wanna see hesitation. I caught you right, I caught you right. Oh, might not see tomorrow, so don't you take it slow. We got one night, only one night. Baby, I love the chase, so hunt me down like an animal. We got no time to waste. I could show you incredible if only you come right up to me. Oh, and let me get away, 'cause baby, I love the chase, so hunt me down like an animal. Been avoiding the cage, lock and key, but I'm down to be in it with you. I'm used to roaming, wanna free, but I'm ready to come into you. Oh, don't keep me waiting, don't wanna see hesitation. We got one night, only one night. Baby, I love the chase, so hunt me down like an animal. We got no time to waste. I could show you incredible if only you come right up to me. Oh, and let me get away, 'cause baby, I love the chase, so hunt me down like an animal. Baby, I love the chase, so hunt me down like an animal. We got no time to waste. I could show you incredible if only you come right up to me. Oh, and let me get away, 'cause baby, I love the chase, so hunt me down like an animal. Hunt me down like an animal. Hunt me down like an animal.
burnerpodcast.com.